We recognize what toxic masculinity in that statement and that label is doing to grown men. But you got to look at this next generation that is totally lost when it comes to what it means to be a man. That simple question, right? What does it mean to be a man? And that's tragic for boys. And if there was any other demographic that was suffering as much as boys, we would be, picketing in the streets, but they're twice as likely to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They have fallen behind girls in every single academic category. They used to lead in places like math and science, but we weren't paying attention. We restructured our educational system to help girls catch up in math and science. Now they've blown past boys, but we didn't pay attention to the fact that boys were lagging in language and social skills. We just kind of let them whatever. So now we've got this generation, this failure to launch generation, these boys who don't really know who they are. And then we throw on top of that, all the gender confusion, gender blurring and all that. Boys just really don't have a place to go. It's as if they're defective girls.
We believe that you are strong by design, and you were made in God's image to have a strong body, mind, and spirit. You're listening to the #1 strength and health authority podcast in the world. So let's get ready to unlock your potential and transform your life in today's episode.
Hey, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode here on the Strong by Design podcast. Hosting today, Coach Chris Wilson. It's a real pleasure and an honor to have you on the show. If you're a first-time listener of the show, we're encouraged every time we get one new listener. So we thank you. Whether you're driving in your car, listening at your desk at work or at home, wherever it is, maybe you're maybe you're working out or you're on a jog and you have us in your ear. That's fantastic as well. I listen to podcasts, all different spots myself. And so we are continuing to have very meaningful, conversations with guests and experts from all over the globe, from all over the United States, and from all walks of life. And I think it's the perfect combination to help our listeners on the other side live a life strong by design. And so, if you're a first-time listener, you're going to love today's conversation. And we have hundreds of conversations you can go back and binge listen to if you found today's conversation enlightening or interesting in any way. I'll ask this again at the end of the episode, if you could share this with one person that you know in your life who could benefit from it, a friend or a family member, a coworker, anybody that's in your life that you feel would enjoy what our guest, Mark Hancock, has to share with us today. And I'm really excited to get to know him better on today's episode. And if you're a past listener of the show, we welcome you back as always, and hope at this point you've already given us a 5-star rating or review. If you haven't, I'm not gonna shame you right now, but please go ahead and do that, because that really does help our show grow and reach more people by people leaving real ratings and reviews for us. We just love reading them, and we love you for doing that. So our guest today, Mark Hancock with Trail Life USA. He is the CEO and founder of Trail Life USA. He's a former pastor and mental health professional, offering incredible insight to one of our biggest battles in society today, which is biblical masculinity, a topic that is something that we've touched on quite a bit actually in 2023. And now in 2024, we will continue to have these conversations because it's important to be talking about this. Mark can discuss the importance or can talk to us today about the importance of raising strong boys to be strong men and to live a life of character. And we're going to talk about our core values here at Critical Bench, our company, Strong by Design, the podcast, and integrity being one of our 7 core values here, which no doubt Mark will be talking about today. Trail Life USA is reaching boys and helping them to shape them live a God-honoring life, which is fabulous. I have some stuff right from their website that I want to touch on too, as I have a ton of questions for Mark. He's also a Brave book author, which is so cool because we've had a few of those on in recent months. Mr. Kevin Sorbo and Kirk Cameron, who've written some great books. And Mark is just another one with a book called Much Tubular that we'll be touching on a little later in the conversation after we get to know him better and what he's doing with Trail Life USA. So there's obviously so much I could share about you, Mark, but I'd rather hear it from you, friend. Great to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us.
Coach Chris, it's such a pleasure to be here. I have to correct you right off. I hate to start with a correction, but I'm not the founder.
Okay.
I'm not the founder of Trail Life USA. We don't point to a founder. We had about 300 of us at the beginning, got together, kind of a grassroots movement 10 years ago to start Trail Life, and we really point to Jesus Christ as the founder of our organization.
That's right.
And the rest of us are just kind of following after him. So.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, yes. Well, that's my bad, but I don't mind it. I am not too good to be corrected. I'm at this stage of my life, I'm pretty used to it. No, that's great. Wonderful to hear, and I love your mission. In fact, before we get to some of these questions that I have, I wanted to just share these because I found these to be great. You know, any company really to really thrive, I think, and to really know the direction of their company, of their organization, and their culture to flow together, they need to have a vision and a mission, and they need to be simple. And you have that on your Trail Life website, which is fantastic. And I just wanted to touch on that for our audience because this just so well lines up with our company. Your vision is to be a premier national character development organization for young men, which produces godly and responsible husbands, fathers, and citizens. Love that. And your mission is to guide generations of courageous young men to honor God, lead with integrity, serve others, and experience outdoor adventure. These are all things that I believe in wholeheartedly and preach about here quite a bit on the Strong by Design podcast. So I just love that you guys are doing what you're doing, and you have such a great cause and purpose, and it's such meaningful work. And so I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for what you're doing. Tell us more about what got you going in this 10 years ago. It sounds like it's been about a decade or so of work.
Yeah, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year. About 10 years ago, it was apparent that the Boy Scouts of America were kind of abandoning their space and traditional values that they had upheld for years. An amazing organization over 100 years, gave us presidents and senators and astronauts and world leaders and generals and civic leaders, and built good, strong men. They just decided that they were going to let go of some of those principles, go in a different direction. We knew that there were churches all across America that were going to struggle to be associated with Boy Scouts or to have a troop, because it would actually challenge their 501c3 status and some of their beliefs if you align yourself with an organization that has different beliefs than yours. So out of that, about 300 of us, as I said, gathered from across the country. 50 of us gathered in Louisville, Kentucky in June of 2013 and talked about the idea of what something would look like. And there are 4 different factions. A beautiful thing, Coach Chris. So these 4 different factions came together in that room. We all came kind of hands open saying, hey, we're going to walk out of here as one. So we just lay down whatever it is that we have, because if we all try to launch, it's not going to happen. So walked to that meeting, and there was a group of 7 on a steering committee. I ended up somehow on that steering committee. And 63 days later in Nashville, Tennessee, we held our inaugural convention. 63 days after that gathering of 50 people, we had 1,200 men and women, 1,100 men and 100 women come from 44 states, showed up in Nashville, and Governor Mike Huckabee was our keynoter, and we had Dr. Michael Ferris there, and a number of other folks there who helped launch the name, the program, the principles, everything. Guys, in 63 days. That's our first miracle of God, that you can, first of all, that you can find a venue for 1,200 people in 63 days in Nashville and secure it and do all that. Not just the logistics, but also all the work going on across the country to write handbooks and design awards programs and uniforms and names and all that. So that was in September of 2013, and then we launched on January 1st, 2014. And so we're coming up on our 10-year launch, and now we have over 50,000 members. We're in all 50 states. Over 1,200 churches have Trail Life USA troops. So you hear that language, you hear troops, and you think, oh, it sounds a lot like Boy Scouts. The uniforms and the handbooks, the Robust Awards program, and growing boys into men, all that. And those are things that kind of look the same. But we have two separating factors that make us different from Boy Scouts. And if they matter to you, we're not really an alternative. We're something very different. And those two things is that we're Christ-centered and we are boy-focused. We believe that boys and girls are different, which I hope is not a radical thing to say on your program.
It's not at all.
We believe when you talk about design,
that,
we believe boys and girls are different and that they each need programs that are aimed at their strengths. And there's a girl program similar to ours called American Heritage Girls. They started about 20 years before we did. And so we joined forces with them. We have two they're separate organizations, but a good, strong organization for raising godly men from boys. And then American Heritage Girls raises those girls into godly women. So when you say we're Christ-centered, we're not just an outdoor organization that's having a Christian experience. We are at our core a Christian ministry that uses the outdoors to grow boys into godly men. And so some of those principles that we adhere to are things like you're talking about, integrity, growing character, leadership. We understand the place of adventure in the life of boys. Boys embrace risk and competition. And so we put those things together, and we actually have a proven process for turning boys into godly men. And we're just seeing it happen all over the country.
Yeah. Wow, that's a fantastic thing. And I wish I knew more about this, years back. I would have had you on the show earlier. This is great. It shows you, even with as much growth as you've seen, and I mean, as you said, 50,000 members in all states. I mean, this should be something that all parents are familiar with who have young boys and girls. They should know these organizations as a great option. We had said right before we hit record today, that we were going to use this conversation to get to know each other a little bit better, so you could get to know our business and our podcast platform a little bit better as well. And there is massive overlap with what you're doing and what we stand on here at Critical Bench, which is we're a fitness and health publishing company, but we're more than that. We get to use our podcast, Strong by Design, as a way of not only talking about fitness and health, but about faith and family and all those other things that matter to us, the several people that are part of our company. And we have 7 guiding core values that we've done numerous episodes on over the years. And the 7 are, and I'll tell you what they are just so you know, and it's always good for our listeners to be reminded, or if there's new listeners, they get to hear it for the first time. Our 7 core values here at Critical Bench are passion, are integrity, gratitude, service, positive attitude, decisiveness, and faith. And so we look at those 7 criteria, whether we're hiring, whether we're firing, making a decision on a product or program, on a relationship in business, and we use them, they're guiding principles. And as I said at the beginning, with the vision and the mission, if you don't have those things, even if you're a small business, small company, or even in your personal life, it makes life a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Right? Could you talk about what went into your formation of of Trail Life? I mean, when it comes to the vision and the mission and the motto, I love the motto.
Yeah. Well, we knew that there was an organization that in its founding had in its DNA the secret sauce for turning boys into godly men. But in 2013, as they began to abandon that, we knew there's some principles in there that somebody needed to carry forward. But then also, without any restraint at all, exercise our Christian faith and our unapologetically Christian stance, which is something that we're restored to the Boy Scout model through Trail Life USA. And that's a big deal. So we got to sit down in the steering committee and talk about, okay, what did they get right and what did they get wrong? And we developed our core values, our bylaws, our principles, our statement of values, our statement of faith, all those foundational sort of things that you talk about, those principles that we walk out every day. We developed all those things out of a beautiful model that the Boy Scouts abandoned, and then we were able to add back into it unapologetically the Christian elements that make it really valuable. And we talk about it, we have dozens of denominations and faith traditions that participate in Trail Life USA, but they all submit to a single statement of faith, which is a Trinitarian statement of faith. Relatively simple. It's like from the Nicene Creed. There's nothing crazy about it. We can represent. We're going to have so many denominations that sign on, but it's important what it is that we say about our faith. And then we also have a statement of values, which talks about things like integrity and purity and stewardship and service and those sorts of things. And every adult member, Coach Chris, every adult member in Trail Life USA signs on to adhere to the statement of faith and the statement of values. And so that's how we're building this brotherhood of Christian men. We have over 18,000 men across the country who are part of this. And this brotherhood that says we care about the next generation. We care about the boys. A lot of them are fathers of boys who are in the program. A lot of them don't have a son in the program. They're there because they want to pour into the next generation. And they've discovered the secret that we're also this incredible brotherhood of men. When you get men together and they share in a mission and they embrace a purpose and they understand their value and they understand the destiny and they understand the legacy that they're creating by pouring into another generation, you got men who are on fire. And they're some of them are struggling to find their way in church. They may go to a conference or hear one of your podcasts or something, get inspired to do something for God, and they show up at the church and say, "Hey, I want to do something big for God." And somebody hands them an orange vest and say, "Yeah, you can help us park cars," because there's just not a lot of room in the church today for men who have a vision and passion about doing big things for God. So Trail Life offers to those churches, here's where you put your men to work. And they work side by side with other men. And they don't miss a weekend because their friends are going to be there, their brothers are going to be there. The mission is that critical. And so we're building this incredible, that's the secret about Trail Life. Even though the boys are our product and the ones we point at, it's also this powerful ministry to men that embraces those things that we talked about, the statement of value, the statement of values, the statement of faith, the core values of Trail Life, embraces those things and carries them out and models them before the next generation in the great outdoors. So, the boys come for the adventure opportunities, but what they're also getting is character and leadership opportunities because they're being raised, they're enjoying the outdoors, great outdoors, and this incredible company of good, strong Christian men. And it's making all the difference for those boys. A lot of boys in our program don't have a dad at home, but that single mom is saying, this is a place where my son can receive good mentoring. We had a boy out in California not too long ago. He received the Horizon Award, which our highest award is a Freedom Award. The Horizon is just below that. And he stood before the room full of men. He was a single mom. And he didn't have a dad. He was raised by his mom, but she put him in Trail Life. And on receiving that award, Coach, he stood in front of that group of men, in front of that troop, and he said, I need to thank the men in this room. You taught me how to shave, and you taught me how to love Jesus. And I thought, these guys nailed it. And you can imagine being that single mom saying, oh my gosh, those are things that it would have been difficult for me to do as a single mom. So many boys in our program are receiving this. 1 in 4 boys now doesn't have a father in the household. It's 76% of teachers are female. 80-something% of Sunday school teachers are female. So girls have these wonderful models of role models to follow after. The single moms are just killing it at home. I mean, it's a hard thing to do. And then they go to school, and the teachers up front is another female. And then they go to Sunday school, it's another female. So they have these great examples. Boys are lacking these examples. So we're restoring the biblical masculinity example and the model of men that are living their lives side by side and in front of these boys, and it's making all the difference.
Yeah. Such a great point to make, too, about those young men out there, those boys that don't have the father in the home, that they can still get that father figure in their life through an organization like this, through, good community programs, through a neighborhood that cares for them, through, organized team sports. I can't help but think of, I've been coaching youth baseball for many, many years now. And my son and I've always had a great relationship, but, we love being together on the ball field. I love seeing him thrive. He's such a great ball player and leader. And the friendships I've formed with the other coaches. These are guys, we've been on trips together with tournaments and stuff. We're planning another one for next summer. And I look forward to these events just as much as the boys do.
Sure.
Because I get to be with my friends.
Brotherhood.
And then the boys all get to see us dads, together, and that we all care for them. And they're all always told how much, that we love them and that we want what's best. And, to be good young men, it's not just about winning and all that. While having fun's important, it's about all these other character traits. So to be anyone listening right now, whether you have a son or a daughter or you don't, it's such a great growth opportunity to invest yourself in something that helps the next generation, because it's just so important. And people don't give themselves enough credit. If they, maybe don't want to be parents, they can still be great role models and mentors in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just encourage people, go find something nearby. Go find a trail life. I mean, you guys said you're in every state.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're going to get there, but I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse here. I mean, how hard is it for people to get involved in helping trail life?
Well, if you got a son in the program, you sign up and you're a part with your son. If you don't know a son in the program, but you're a man who says, I want to give back to the next generation, you go to our website, traillifusa.com. You look for a troop in your area. You just put in your zip code, and it shows you a map of the United States and the troops that are nearby. You can contact them and say, hey, my guy wants to come help. There is a process. There's a background check, criminal background check. There's a child safety youth protection training. You have to have personal references. You don't just go to our website and join. You go through the door properly, and the door is that local church. We're not just a group that meets in the basement of that church. We are an outreach of that local church. Much like you could have a youth group or a choir or a men's group or whatever. We are an outreach of that church. We have a troop position called the TML, the Troop Ministry Liaison. And that person's job is to connect the troop to the church and connect the church to the troop. And he's assigned by that pastor of that church. The leader of that church picks this man to build and maintain that bridge. So you have to go through that door to be part of it. Not just anybody. You have to go through that door to be part of it. But I encourage your men who are looking to find the kind of to find their brothers and this kind of stuff. They don't have any outdoors experience. We got a ton of those guys. I have very little of that, and geez, they let me run this thing. So it's not really critical because there's plenty of guys who can teach you how to start a fire with wet leaves or which snake you should be picking up and which one you should be avoiding. They can handle all that stuff. But to show up there and say, I care about the next generation, or I've got my own son who I haven't figured out how to connect with him. He's got these digital devices and things. I don't know how to make this connection with him. It's a very different world than the one that we were raised in. Kids can go to Google now and learn where babies come from. They don't really need dad anymore. So it's so hard to find those connections. So men in the outdoors with their sons are going to find a place to connect with their boys, and men without boys are going to find a place to connect with other men. Boys without dads are going to find a place where they can have a dad like somebody who says, hey, I care about that boy. And it's just this wonderful convergence of these powerful ministry opportunities, and the testimonies that come from the field are just amazing. That's right. Yeah. The magic sauce in life is definitely connection and relationships. I heard a TEDx talk not that long ago talking about that. What's the most important thing? This is based on a Harvard study that actually is the longest running study in history, with over 700 men that has followed them for 75 years, and 60 of these men are still alive. Wow, that's powerful. And the number one thing was relationships and connection, and not being isolated. Yeah. And so, what an opportunity here with Trail Life, to be connected to, guys who will become your best friends, and to other boys in your community that can become your son's best friend, and to have a life lived with others is a life well lived. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that distinction between biblical masculinity and what's become known as toxic masculinity
in our culture today. It's almost like, men have been kind of brushed under the rug, so to speak, in the last few decades. What are your feelings, and what are you noticing, Mark, with any pushback with what you're doing with Trail Life?
Well, I'd like to kind of answer that in a different way if I can, because we're experts on boys. We know where boys are in society, so we recognize what toxic masculinity in that statement and that label is doing to grown men. But you got to look at this next generation that is totally lost when it comes to what it means to be a man. That simple question:
Right.
What does it mean to be a man? And that's tragic for boys. And if there was any other demographic that was suffering as much as boys, we would be, picketing in the streets. But they're twice as likely to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They have fallen behind girls in every single academic category. They used to lead in places like math and science. But we weren't paying attention. We restructured our educational system to help girls catch up in math and science. Now they've blown past boys. But we didn't pay attention to the fact that boys were lagging in language and social skills. We just kind of let them whatever. So now we've got this generation, this failure to launch generation, these boys who don't really know who they are. And then we throw on top of that all the gender confusion, gender blurring and all that. Boys just really don't have a place to go. It's as if they're defective girls. It's like there's something wrong with you. Like boyhood is some kind of social disease that needs to be eradicated or something, because there is no place where they fit. And so it's very difficult to speak to them in terms of a generation that would storm the beaches of Normandy when we can't even get them to go to school on time because they don't fit in that environment. They don't fit at a desk. Sit still, be quiet, pay attention. That's the worst thing in the world to do for a boy. He's wired differently than a girl. So we put boys in these situations where they fail consistently, and then we point out their failures to them. We shame them over and over again instead of reminding them who they are, which is this wonderful, marvelous creation that does things like embraces risk and competition, will climb on top of a rocket and go to another planet, will get in a ship and sail across an unknown sea. That's the masculinity. That's the biblical masculinity. That's the role and the design for men that's just been taken out. And so you and I can still reach back. I feel like this is the last generation that we can really impact with what it is that you and I know, because we know these things. But these boys are not being raised, for their whole lives. You can marry whoever you want to, for us, it's still kind of like, wow, that's kind of strange. For them, it's like, it's always been this way. For many of them, it's always been that I don't know what gender I am. Maybe I get to decide. These confusing sorts of things that boys are having to deal with. I'll tell you what category they are leading in, and they're behind in all these others, is suicide. Boys 10 to 14 years old, fastest growing demographic, because of the effects of this toxic masculinity and the triple down part. That's why I really need to speak to the boys, because they're the ones who are really feeling. You and I are offended. We can get mad because of the way they were treated, but they're being destroyed because they're losing the model or the idea even in us as we cease carrying that. So the impact on them is much greater than ours. We're just being shamed and having our feelings hurt. Their entire purpose and function and design is being taken away, where they're losing focus, they're losing meaning, they're losing the desire. Like I said, the failure to launch thing. There's now more young men living at home than have lived at home since they started counting that in the census in 1960, because they get out there and this whole thing that we've done with participation trophies, or everybody, nobody keeps score. We have de-incentivized boys for being what we used to encourage and reward them for in the past. And then it's just really tragic. So the effects of toxic masculinity on grown men is really something. But you look at what these boys are growing up with, it's incredibly painful to be a boy today. And so when we talk about, geez, they're such a mess and they're bullying and all this, well, that's no wonder. The only emotion that we assign to them is anger. So it's okay. We understand. Yeah, we know you're angry. You're toxic. Of course you're angry. And so that's a lot of them. That's the expression that they go to. And it just feeds that narrative that says they don't have anything to offer society when they really do. We've got to unlock in boys the power, the secret, the seed that's in there, the vision, the design that God has put, the purpose, the future that God has put in that boy. we've got to find ways to unlock that and expose that and show it to him rather than shame him for someone who's not able to figure it out in this crazy, crazy world.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The name of our show, Strong by Design, actually has that double meaning. You know, we are strong by design by a designer, the designer, the creator of the universe, the creator of us. But we as human beings, as men, as women, we have the ability to live a life strong by our own design. The design of the decisions and the choices that we are given every single day, it's a new opportunity for growth and for, taking on something new and overcoming a failure, or so it's a great sentiment for these young boys to be given the tools from a young age in a culture, in a society that's very, very different than it was 30 or 40 years ago when we were young, and so it's so vitally important. There was something else that I was gonna remark on that you had said so many good things there, and it'll come back to me, I'm sure. I do want to talk a little bit more about the that shift that has occurred. Oh, I remember what my question is now. I'll come to it in a second. The shift that has occurred, that it's been kind of a slow drip. It's not like overnight all of a sudden men were bad. It's almost like it was something that started, I don't know if it was in the 70s or the 80s or what it was, if it was, has much more to do with like the feminist movement and they just, but you saw it, and we've talked about this in past episodes. You started to see it in television where they were making all the dads kind of just look like dopes and like they didn't know the answers, and they were, mom was the one that really, made everything work and was the backbone of the family. And then it started to almost become more acceptable at some level. And I don't know if it was just through entertainment and through Hollywood. I don't want to just blame television and media for this problem, because certainly there's been a lot of men that have blundered things and ruined their families at the same time. But in your experience, was this kind of something you were noticing as a pastor in your prior career, prior to Trail Life, that you were really feeling an itch to do something?
There's no question that women were getting the short end of the stick for decades,
for a long time,
and that we needed to fix that. But that pendulum swing was such that we had a generation, or at least 20 years or so, of women beginning to say, I don't need a man. And then after that, I don't want a man. Their daughters were raised saying, well, I don't want a man. And now we have a generation that asks, I don't even know what a man is. So
right.
So
they can't even define it.
Yeah. Was rooted back in there, but I'm not blaming anybody. It was the way that sometimes we fix things as a culture. We let it swing really far. And
it does,
but like I said, the boys and indirectly the rest of us are paying a price for it, because girls and our culture needs strong men, just like it needs strong women. We've made sure that we have strong women, but this culture makes it difficult for boys to become strong men. I remember after the Boy Scouts, the Boy Scouts now allows girls in Boy Scouts, which is kind of like how do you do that? But I remember one of the first, I read an article, they interviewed the Scoutmaster. They said, how do you like having girls in your troop? And he said, we love having girls in our troop. They're so much smarter and better behaved. And I thought, well, he's right.
That's good.
He's right. Yeah. But do we really have to take an organization that has boys in the name and make it another place that boys go to be shamed? And so this whole thing about shaming them for being boys is just really, there's no wonder that boys are in the state that they're in right now. But I believe that the foundations of that were in us saying, hey, we got to do something for women, and perhaps moving things too far and creating two genders that instead of working together to fix something, began to work apart. And so I think that's why we are where we are. And there's certainly a lot that we can be doing better to help boys and girls for the good of all of us.
That's right. And it's okay that we're different. We're supposed to be. Right. It's by design. If we were the same, we wouldn't exist.
Right.
It takes a mommy and a daddy to make a baby.
Yes.
So, and it's fine that we have kind of our own groups to, and it's okay to also have co-ed things as well. But all these things can exist on their own, and everything doesn't have to become a merger. It is super frustrating. I think for anybody listening who's plus side of 40, I'm a few years from 50, and it's a very different world now than it was obviously in the mid 70s when I was a little one. But what I did want to ask, the thing that had kind of left my brain for a moment but then came back, what's the age range, Mark, for these boys? At what age can they start, and how long can they kind of be part of this?
Yeah, well, we have a unique structure, and that's one of the things when we looked at Boy Scouts. We said, what can we do different that's better? And where the Boy Scouts, they have two kind of independent programs. They have the Cub Scouts, and then at some point, you leave that troop or that group of boys or that meeting place or that meeting night, and all those men are leading, and you go pick some other organization. So we go all the way from 5 years old up to 17 years old in a single troop. Now it's broken up into 3 units, but everybody's meeting on the same night. So we have our Woodlands Trail, which is our elementary unit. Then we have our Navigators, it's our middle school. And then we have our Adventurers, or the high school. So they all meet together on the same night. So you're in one troop from 5 to 17 years old. So you get to grow up next to the same group of guys with the same group of dads and men who are leading you through. But you're going through 3 distinct programs that have different emphases. Our younger program is built on knowledge. Our middle grade program is built on understanding, and our high school program is built on wisdom. I mean, you'll recognize those words from Proverbs, also key to classical education. So we bring them through these different program emphases in order to grow and honest. And as the program moves older, the boys are running the program. We make a big deal about that's how we develop leadership. I said earlier, we're adventure, character, and leadership. Those are three big things. And we developed that leadership. But the boys at that older age program, they're going back and they're teaching some of those elementary school kids some of the skills that they need to know. So they're getting an introduction to leading, and then they're leading their own patrol, and the adults are standing back. By the time they're in high school, the adults are standing back in the room, and the boys are planning the adventure. They're planning the fundraiser. They're on a camp out. They're planning who's got breakfast duty, who's going to find our next water source, who's going to do this. So the boys are learning these leadership skills, which where else do you get to lead in today's society if you're a 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15-year-old boy? And so we offer that in Trail Life USA the opportunity for them to learn those leadership skills.
Oh, that's great. There's got to be massive, a massive return on investment, if you will, or ROI with boys who have kind of aged out and probably still want to be part of Trail Life and continue on to lead. I would imagine it's a real strong showing there.
There is, because they've already tasted leadership. They know what it is. So it's not like one day you're a kid in the program, then you turn 18 and you got to turn around and start leading. They've already tasted leadership, and so they embrace that role. And even the boys in the program embrace it. So you feel one kid who's 1 year older than everybody else, he comes back the next day and turns 18 and comes back and starts leading you. You're not ready for that, but if you've seen him lead already,
absolutely,
then it's like, okay, you're just leading from a different position. Now you're 18, which means you're background checked in child safety, youth protection training, and some other things. But basically, we're all trailmen from 5 years old up until 105, and we're all called trailmen, but they're just leading from a different place. So that experience of leading is really valuable in boys' lives today, particularly leading men or leading other boys. That's where they find out how they fit and they learn that they do fit. So many places boys don't fit anymore, but in Trail Life they fit. They're in a company of men being called up into bigger and greater things, and it just works. We actually have a guarantee, Coach, that for our churches, that if the boys in that troop are not being turned into godly men, you get your money back. And it's, so because we believe so strongly in this proven process for turning boys into godly men, that I was a youth pastor for 15 years. I don't know that I could have made that promise to the parents of my troop. We make that promise to the churches that are charting the troops. The church, if you charter a trail of troop, those boys, we guarantee it. They'll be turned into godly men. It's a money back guarantee. Now, if it doesn't happen, you get your money back. But we have seen by our proven process that we have the elements in place that turn boys into godly men.
Wow. And that serves them for a lifetime, because, even where the small business I work for, it was a little over 20, 25 people that work for it. We're all called to be leaders in our own departments, in our own ways. And no matter who you are, you might have a small team. It might just be you, but you have to at least lead yourself. So leadership skills are not too good for anyone to learn, especially from a young age, and to utilize any craft in any industry. And it's so great. And then I love, the fact that it's such an emphasis on service, because there is no greater call for us as kingdom men to live a life of service, to really disciple to others, and to always put others before ourselves. And it's such a great way to live. And it just, gets me emotional just thinking about it. Like, there's organizations locally here in Tampa that we love giving to, that helps young men and young boys and girls, and to be part of something, a cause like that, giving back, it just gives you a heart for other people. And I think if you don't have that, it's really, it can be hard to find that fulfillment and that purpose in life. So I'm encouraging others, find something in your community where you can give back and serve other people, because there is no greater gift than to be in service of other people on some level. I want to obviously get to your brave book, buddy. So as I said earlier, we've had some great conversations in the past with some authors of brave books. You have a great looking book called Much Tubular.
Yeah.
So I want to know all about it, and I want our listeners to know more about it.
Yeah, well, Brave Books has the Book of the Month called through Freedom Island series, and for December it's Too Much Tubular. And Tubular is the social media of Freedom Island world. And the basis of the story is the characters in Frenzy Park are just caught up and obsessed with their social media. The tubes come out of the ground, they spit out these photographs, so everybody's got to look at the photo. And so they're like zombies, they're just kind of addicted to the social media. But the characters, the brave characters, end up being run out of town, and they come across a family that's out camping. And it happens to be a family of Fletcher Hawk. Now, Fletcher Hawk is a character from Trail Life. Our younger boys are the foxes, the hawks, and the mountain lions. 5 and 6 year olds, 7 and 8 year olds, 9, 10 year olds. So Fletcher Hawk is out there camping with his family, and they're eating s'mores, and brave characters come upon them, and they say, yeah, we're eating s'mores, but we're eating them in moderation. And that's when the brave characters, they get this, moderation. And so they bring back to Frenzy Park this sense of moderation, this idea of moderation, and also the importance of spending time with family in places like the outdoors. And that helps to set the city free. So it's a great tool, because the kids spend so many hours on their screens, and they'll sit in restaurants, and you'll see families that everybody sitting around the table is on their screen. And so the conversations that we anticipate happening with these kids, if you read through this book with your son or daughter, you're able to say, hey, look at that table over there. They've got too much tubular, and you see, and they will recognize them as zombies, and they say, wow, and they'll recognize it, and they'll recognize it in themselves too if it's there.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity for conversations on moderation. Of course, the digital tools we have are amazing for the advancement of the kingdom, tools for training, for doing all sorts of things. We're using technology right now to speak to each other. So there's nothing wrong with it. But if it's overused, if we don't use it in moderation and understand the strengths of it, we can really be impacted, and we can become like zombies and forget about the time that we spend with each other, or looking into each other's eyes or having meaningful conversations with one another. And so that's the message of Too Much Tubular. And so we're encouraging parents to go to bravebooks.com. This book, my book, is free this month when you subscribe to the book of Brave Brave Books, and you get a new book every month. And like you said, folks like Kevin Sorbo and Kirk Cameron and Missy Robertson and folks like that have all written books under different topics, and so you get connected with that sort of material for your kids to read. And the artwork in it is just amazing. I love what they've done with it. I mean, the pictures are just engaging and so much fun to work. Like a couple weeks ago, I was in Houston when the book first came out, and I got to read it to a group of, there's the Trail Life characters out and he's got a Trail Life uniform on, and that's Fletcher the Hawk right there. So reading it to a group of boys out there in the outdoors, and they were so engaged in the drawings, everything. You go point out to them, what's going on here. There's this great section in the back which has challenges and things that are specific to drawing people understanding how we do things in trail life, but it's also challenging the families you go out and do things together. So encourage your folks to check it out. It's a great tool for having great conversations with your kids.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, we couldn't be happier helping to promote what Brave Books is doing, to put really good literature into public libraries and into the hands of boys and girls to read stories that have these great messages that are so simplistic, but we can never get away from that foundation.
Absolutely.
Being God, being people that operate from a set of principles, guiding principles, like I said earlier, with core values and stuff. And these books do such a great job of taking an issue and really putting it across so simply, with just an easy way for a child to understand. But then the adult can also get so much from it as well, right? There's the honesty from kids sometimes. You're right. Whether you're 5 or 12 years old, sometimes a kid will say something and you'll be like, wow, that was so simple but so profound, and I really need to work on that myself. I might be a dad and a husband, but there's still stuff I need to work on. I'm still a flawed human being that needs to work every day to be a little bit better in certain areas of my life. So what Brave Books is doing and will continue to do, it has great ripple effects. So I'm so I think, who made that partnership happen? Did you end up reaching out to them, or they took notice of what you're doing with Trail Life and they came for you?
I don't know that I know the answer to that question. I know that we go to a lot of homeschool conventions together, so we always have booths on each other, and we've just kind of developed this relationship. This is the first time that they're doing a book with an entity. Even though they show me as the author along with them, it's really they're engaged with Trail Life USA. So they're kind of taking a risk, saying, hey, we believe in what you guys are doing, and you're 50,000 families, and so let's see if we can make a difference. And
wow.
So I'm not sure who started that conversation.
It's a great cross promotion. How cool is that, right? So. But it's a privilege just to be able to partner with them and to also help you at the same time and what you're doing with Trail Life. It's so great. Where besides going to bravebooks.us, I believe is the website, or I'm pretty sure that's the website for your book, right?
Yep.
Bravebooks.us.
Bravebooks.com, I think, is where they can actually buy the book.
Oh, maybe there's
stuff at .us, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's just, it's loaded with so many great people and so many great, terrific books. It's fun just to look at the website, see everything that they're doing. What's the next big thing for you coming up with Trail Life? And any big news or anything coming in 2024?
Well, we've been training our leaders in how to handle boys specifically. And we had a lot of our leaders come to say, hey, listen, this training, I wrote a couple books for our leaders. And they came back and they said, I was sharing with a Sunday school teacher. I was sharing with a soccer coach. I was sharing with a co-op leader. I was sharing with this person, which read the book. And so we rewrote the books to speak to everybody. So there's now 2 books for download for free on our website. One is called Let Boys Be Boys. And we talk about, the subtitle is 3 Winning Strategies for Leaders of Boys. We talk about the differences between boys and girls. Scientific, biological, psychological, developmental differences between boys and girls. Very simply put, we show here's the differences, here's why. And so people are kind of armed then to go talk to their kindergarten teacher about why Johnny can't pay attention. Well, he's 5. That's what's wrong with him. He doesn't have ADHD.
He wants to be outside on the monkey bars.
Yeah, he doesn't have ADHD. It's BOY is what he's got. So those sorts of things kind of arm parents and also arm leaders of boys to say, okay, how can I deal with them? And then this book is called Raising Godly Boys. And when I talked about the proven process that we have in Trail Life that's turning boys into godly men, we've taken that process and turned it into something that any organization that deals with boys can use. And so it takes the essentials that we've shown over to work in Trail Life and say, how can other people use this in leading boys? And basic things we say in there, we say boys are unguided. 1 in 4 boys doesn't have a father. All the female teachers, I spoke about earlier, they're ungrounded. 58% of Americans no longer believe that God and the Bible are a source of morality. So where do boys find truth? They're unappreciated. The gender blurring, we don't recognize the difference between boys and girls. We just see them as defective girls. And they're uninspired because we've taken risk and competition out of the lives of boys. And so we talk about the restoration of things and how in Trail Life, we guide boys, we ground boys, we appreciate boys, we inspire boys, and how you can do that anywhere that you intersect with boys. And it makes all the difference because they're starving for these things. And it's not a good time or place to be a boy right now. And we're trying to fix it.
That's right. Well, you're on a very worthy mission, and we couldn't be prouder here at Strong by Design and Critical Bench to promote your cause and to support you in any way. And we would love to get you back on in the future with any new news or new books or, there's so many different conversations that we are capable of having, obviously, on this topic of raising godly boys. I want to close by first mentioning to our listeners the website for Trail Life is traillifeusa.com. So go there to find out more about what Mark and his team and all these amazing men and even some women are doing to help raise stronger boys and to support them in a time that can be quite confusing for them, where they really need that support. They need that hand reaching out to them to guide them and to give them direction. Your motto, as we've kind of hinted at a few times, I love it because it's always good to have scripture in our conversation. It says to walk worthy. It's from Colossians 1:10, that you may walk worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing Him, being fruitful in every good work and increasing in the knowledge of God. And there's no greater truth than biblical truth. And so it's an amazing thing that you're doing. And I also love your oath. Your oath is, on my honor, I will do my best to serve God and my country, to respect authority, to be a good steward of creation, and to treat others as I want to be treated. I don't know any more on point sentiment that a young person could commit to.
Yeah.
So I think that's just wonderful.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. It's just great. Well, listeners, I promised you another terrific conversation. You have plenty of links and things to go check out now and investigate what Mark's doing with Trail Life USA, and of course what he's done with Brave Books and his book Much Tubular. Please support him and support these amazing men and women that are trying to change the world for the better. And hopefully just try to be that pebble, be that ripple effect in your community. What can you do to help our young people live a life that's strong by design? I'm sure there's something that you can do. And we thank you for checking us out today. Please come back for another great conversation here on the podcast. We love you, and God bless you. Talk with you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.